Okay, we're
Good
live.
morning.
And it's a beautiful Monday
morning.
Yes.
I hope you guys had a great weekend. Thank you so much for spending the first day of your week with us. We are your hosts, Jifa Eke Ametam.
And Isaac Obofo Mensa.
And this is Breakfast Daily on CTTV. We want to keep the conversation interactive, so do not forget to use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line
0550-585-832.
Yes. Now, how was your weekend?
My weekend was fantastic. I tried catfish for the first time.
Wow.
You know, I always saw it as very weird. You know how they do this whole catfish thing? There's a fish swimming in a little
pond
thing, or a you know, they have this big gallon thing, and then the fish will be swimming, and then you select the fish. I always saw it as barbaric.
Really?
And I
Why?
feel bad for eating the fish.
Why?
I ate it twice, and then I almost broke into tears because like a few minutes prior, I saw the fish alive. The fish was swimming. You know, I thought it was fancy for a bit, but then eventually I just think it's a bit barbaric, and maybe we need to stop it. So they have this bowl thing, then they catch the fish, and then how they even kill the fish was sad.
What
So they put the fish on a slab, and then he's looking at the fish like this. He was a macho man. He was looking at the fish like this. I had no idea what he had in his hand. And then he had a huge club, and bam! And the fish just jumped. Charlie, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. So then the fish was bleeding. I don't know. It was just too barbaric for my liking.
Was it delicious?
It was. It tasted a bit too raw for me. You know, so it added on to how inhumane I think the whole thing is. You
And
know,
I think
I don't think I'll ever do that
theory
again.
behind the whole vegetarian and vegan movement. That
I think gradually I'm becoming vegetarian.
But then there's also a school of thought that it's important to know where your food comes from, right?
But not to see how the animal was brutalized and killed, because you know that night it was Friday night, I think. That night I dreamt like that I was drowning.
The ghost of the fish visited you in your dreams.
I dreamt that I was drowning, and the fish was the only one around.
And then he's
I was
like,
save me, and I remember you. Like it was bad. It was bad. I don't think I'm ever going to eat that catfish again. So I'm done. Speaking of brutalized, it was a weekend of shame, actually.
Yes,
you know, Friday morning, we were talking about police brutality. We were on and on about, you know, some things must stop, this must stop, that must stop.
And we had no idea that it was going to escalate.
Wow. When I saw the video, I was like, this is it.
I mean, Friday,
this is it.
when did it was like around in the evening, right? When I first saw the video, I didn't think it was real. I thought people were acting, right? You know, people who do things for social media. Then I'm like, I was shocked.
It's a disgusting incident, and in case you're not exactly certain what we're talking about the Midland Savings and Loans incident, where a woman was brutalized for going to, you know, get her own money. Her own money
that she's saved, she's worked hard, and she's just asking for her money.
Yes.
And when you hear her side of the story, she was there earlier. It got cold. Then she went there to get her money, and then they called this police guy for her. And Jesus, even take away him being a policeman aside, you are a man. This is a woman. Like, you don't do that. She could be your mom, she could be your sister. Even if he had been a man, you don't do that to another human being who you know is vulnerable, especially when you're in a position of power, because you're there to protect
and you're there with a weapon. Okay, so this is just a
viewer discretion.
Definitely, viewer discretion is advised.
Please, this is very violent. So if you can't take it, please don't watch. But this is just terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's.
And look at this guy. I was so upset with the guy in pink,
and the guy
because he could have done something about it.
The guy in pink is quite muscular himself, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to take the baby
and forget about the woman.
And forget about the woman.
And look at this policeman dragging the poor lady like this, and she can't defend herself. She just came for her own money.
Okay, well, to be fair, this was him, well, for a second, or for a microsecond, he tried to pull the policeman away. And, well, this is a lady also maybe trying to help the situation, but clearly there's more that, you know, that could have been done. by the workers of this institution or people who are actually looking on for this to actually happen. It's really sad. It's really sad. Well, look at him raising his gun in an attempt to hit the woman. Shame. Shame.
I can't even watch it. I can't even watch it anymore because it's when I watched this, I was just like, I have no words for the man and the people who just stood by and did nothing. When you actually listen to them, you can hear people actually empathizing with the policeman and asking the woman to well, why are you doing this?
Yes,
you're doing this over 250 cedis. I'm like, why is he hitting her? You know, so there's an issue. Like there's a problem with their thinking, right? And there's this whole theory of bystander effect, right? Which is a social psychological phenomenon in which individuals are less likely to help a victim when other people are present. So if it was just one person, maybe they would have done something about it. But because there were multiple people there, and they were staff members of the bank, and they did nothing, and they were looking at her like, why are you here? Why don't you just go? Why are you letting him hit you over 270 or 200? They kept saying 250, even though it was 270.
Even though it was 270 according to the lady.
And my thing is, what's wrong with you people?
Anyway, so for many of those who, there were some people trying to justify same on social media as to the use of force. Very disappointingly tried to justify same. I want to take a look at section 30 of the Criminal Code, justification for force or harm. So some force or harm is actually justified, but then if you look at section 31 of the Criminal Code, Act 29, Criminal Act of Ghana, Criminal Offences Act, Act 29. If you look at section 31C, refers to justified use of force by an officer or person in authority for keeping the peace or to preserve order. So that is what some people are trying to use to justify this barbaric act. But if you look also, very importantly, at section 32B, the use of force that may justify causing harm is actually explained and clarified under section 32B. So those people should actually take a look at that. It says the force, although there may exist a matter of justification for the use of force, force cannot be justified as having been used in pursuance of that matter, which extends beyond the amount or the amount and kind of force reasonably necessary for the purpose. So you ask yourself whether indeed the force the policeman applied was reasonably necessary to remove the woman.
And
it's absolutely not.
Even if he were not a policeman, you don't treat another human being in this manner. Even if the person was a thief, you don't do that to a thief, let alone your own customer. And I honestly don't think it's enough for the bank to say, Midlands to say we've suspended five workers. It's not enough. And I agree with people who say maybe they should be sued. Because you don't do that, especially if you've been around for 20 years. No, they can be sued, actually.
Midland can be sued. They may even face, the workers on the set may actually, on the scene, may actually face criminal prosecution.
Yeah.
They can face criminal prosecution. Anyway, so I think we can move to Asawasi because this weekend was terrible. It wasn't just one incident. It was a plethora of incidents and shame on the police. So let's take a look at what also happened in Asawasi.
Over the 8-month period under review, trigger-happy police officers shot and killed 19 innocent Ghanaians. 8 of the incidents were recorded in 2018 alone. In 2 of the cases, the victims were not even described as suspects by police but were killed anyway. Just this week, police opened fire on persons they claim were suspected robbers. In what police claim was an exchange of fire, 7 young men were killed when the dust finally settled. The police shootings were an apparent revenge on the killing of one of their own at Ayurebi near Monsoon Kwanta on July 11. The Ashanti Regional Police Commander is DCOP Akwesi Mensah Doku.
So on 17, that was yesterday, upon the receipt of the information, the police was put on the alert and deployed patrols to the area between Anyang Kwanta and Monsoon Kwanta. The police signaled them to stop, but they ignored. the signal and started firing at the police.
But family members would have none of the story. Ahmed Salim Yusa, a cousin to one of the deceased, says the police story was cooked up to conceal their wicked actions.
The display of armory that they did, the ammunition, I can tell you on authority that they went to their armory and took these ammunition and came and displayed them. By our record, we have it on record that our people are not armed, our brothers are not armed, they were not criminals. In fact, they don't have anything to do with criminality. It's a record.
The killings drew public outrage as hundreds of community members poured out on the streets of the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, to protest the killings. For family members, this is yet another of the many unauthorized police killings.
Reports reaching us have that you were shot at your back. How can you shoot somebody at the back? How can you? That should tell you how serious the issue is. We are humbly on our knees calling the attention of His Excellency the President, the Chief of Staff, the Minister for Interior. They should please come to our aid and take justice for our people.
On March 13, police in the Ashanti region shot and killed a suspected armed robber who jumped bail in a narcotics case that was pending at the Nkawie Circuit Court. On April 15, police shot and killed 28-year-old Emmanuel Amofa at Agbogba in Accra. Emmanuel's only crime, according to family sources, was because he hung out with friends at a pub before a police patrol team swooped on them and gunned him down. And on May 2, in neighboring Kwabenya, police opened fire on Yao Sapong, killing him instantly for alleged attempted robbery. A clash between police and youth of the Upper West regional town of Tumu resulted in the killing of 2 young men on May 18. On March 12, some officers from the Accra Regional Police Command gunned down 2 suspected armed robbers in their hideout for allegedly robbing a fuel station at Hachu. In December 2017, Detective Corporal Ejay Shaibu of the police service shot and killed 17-year-old Master Lawrence Beidu, a student of the Ghana Secondary Technical School, after supposedly mistaking him for an armed robber. But while the number of deaths of innocent lives continues to soar, there are demands for immediate action to arrest the killing of persons who have not been convicted by a court. The Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative holds the view that the stories don't add up. Mina Mensah is with the organization.
And when you look at their police service instruction, I think it's 97.3 or so, they have processes and procedures that they use. How come all 7 of the supposedly robbers were killed? Number 1. Number 2, there's been several instances, including in 2013, I think, when the police branded their own as robbers and killed them. And the story that came out first was that the police have shot robbers. So for me, I think that there are a lot of questions to be answered.
A defensive Ghana Police Service, which believes the citizenry are fast losing trust in it, now says it wants an independent inquiry into the incidents. ACP David Eklu is Director General in charge of Public Affairs at the Ghana Police Service headquarters.
Very important that we get the body outside the police service to look at all the circumstances of the case, what went wrong, what went right, and we see the way forward. That is the stance of the police administration now. It calls for thorough reflection over the incident, a dispassionate discussion of the incident, and then see how this issue can be resolved.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
So that was a report by Omar Sanda.
Yeah.
22 people have been shot dead by the police since December 2017.
It's a bit much. I mean, to be fair, the police are given the guns to shoot. That's the fair thing. But then we can't discount the fact that is that always the first point of call? Is that always the solution? Because even looking at the Asawasi incident, okay, imagine, let's just assume what the police are saying is true about they asked them to stop and then they open fire, a story which seems very incredible by our standards. Because if you ask them to stop and then they open fire too, there should be at least evidence of
one policeman being injured.
No policeman was it. I don't know whether Ghana police, they've been trained to see bullets and dodge. I don't know. But I don't understand how not even a single policeman was incident and 7 of them were gunned down, perfectly gunned down in the back. So it just speaks volumes about the credibility or otherwise of the story. It's just fantastically incredible, you know. So the bottom line is that assuming they were in a vehicle, and let's just even imagine the situation where they had kidnapped a person, okay, and they're in a vehicle, and then one person opens fire on the police. So we are expecting the response from what we have seen in the past, that the police would just spray the vehicle. So it doesn't matter that one person out of, let's say, 4 people in the vehicle have shot. You understand? They'll probably just spray the vehicle. That's the situation we have to deal with in Ghana right now. So it speaks to, for instance, how are these people trained? Let's go back to the recruitment process for these police people. The political interference, the protocol list. Last week we had 2 members of parliament here admitting to the fact that there is a protocol list.
Yeah, but why is that the case? Because we can't toy with our security, right? Without our security, we don't have anything. And there's an infographic on your screen right now of all the incidents that I just don't know what to say. Like December, we had 3 people killed in December alone, right? And you move on to February, March, April. So there has not been no 1 month, maybe June. June was the only month that we didn't have a case of someone being killed. And this is just what we know of. So you can imagine what's out there, the number of people who have suffered in the hands of policemen, and we are not even aware of it.
Yeah, and you see, we shouldn't say this in a way that would cripple or let the police cower down in respect of fighting crime. You should still fight crime. When you're being shot at, it's true that you will have to reply fire. But if you're trigger happy, if that's always your first solution or first approach to everything, you might end up, you know, in situations like this.
But don't they have a taser or something? Like you can just taser the person.
If you're being shot at, it's not maybe very practical to, you know, tase the person. But the bottom line is that how the thinking behind them shooting back, or even if indeed they were even shot at, that's the main question. Whether truly they were shot at. Some of these people, if you look at the report or if you listen to the report, some of these people were actually innocent. You understand? So what happens to the policemen after this? Now let's go back to the roots of the whole issue.
How they are recruited, how they are trained.
You know, so you realize that beyond the protocol list, there are the qualification for the police service. Between 18 and 24, to the best of my knowledge, between 18 and 24, secondary school leaver or graduate from secondary school. So you bring a person in a police force who is probably 18 years old. Now, beyond the first medical, they do medicals before the training process itself, training process for about 7 months or so. Beyond the first medicals, the question is, and I'm reliably so informed that there is no further testing of, for instance, whether they are on drugs or anything. Somebody may have been in the police force for like 10 years. You don't test the person whether they're on drugs. Now let's even look at psychological evaluation. During this 7-month period, they are taught psychology. That I'm reliably so informed. But they are not evaluated themselves psychologically. So you are teaching a person psychology to assume that the fact that you're teaching a person psychology, you are evaluating the person's mind, or the person can do a self-evaluation or what. It doesn't add up. These are people who face violent situations every day. These are people in society who probably need this psychological evaluation the most, even probably more than our military men, because our military men are not doing internal security per se, apart from their joint operations with the police. They are not at war. So usually, ordinarily, it's these police people who are fighting armed robbers every day, who are being shot at every day, who are shooting and chasing thieves every day.
They need help.
They need help. There's no psychological evaluation. They see dead bodies almost every day.
Let me ask you, do they even take classes in emotional intelligence? Do you know if they go through classes for emotional intelligence?
They're not even being taught emotional intelligence. I strongly doubt.
Because it's important.
I strongly doubt.
When I see these cases, I'm like, these policemen, are they able to put themselves in the shoes of the people they are harming? Right? Because everybody, even if the person is a criminal, everybody has what is it called? You are innocent until proven guilty, right? So the policeman is not the judge. You don't get to take a life. You leave that in the hands of the court, right? So, and you don't want to have us, you don't want to cause panic, because now when I see a policeman, I'm afraid, and I've said it time and time again. that usually when I see a policeman, they are friendly, they are nice. Maybe they just want a few CDs from you. That's it. But to think that a policeman can accidentally shoot me because they're trying to warn someone, right?
Yeah.
Or just shoot me and I can't defend myself, or beat me up for taking my own money. How did we get here?
It's horrible. It's disgusting. We need to take a second look at our recruitment processes. I'm thinking also of the fact that, you know what, an 18-year-old person who just finished secondary school with all the secondary school influences, the person that finished secondary school, you've given the person an AK-47 to be walking around town. You know, it doesn't
and they
really...
drink too much. I've seen so many policemen who are usually drunk. And that goes back to the psychological evaluation.
Yes.
If they are not being evaluated, I don't know, maybe...
regular.
Yeah,
on
maybe
a regular.
Quarterly or by month, whatever the case is, or even drug tests. You know, test them to make sure they are not taking anything that they shouldn't be. Because if we're putting the lives of people in your hands and we're asking you to protect them...
The most dangerous accident I've had in my life while driving was with a policeman who was very drunk in the afternoon, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, so the person was speeding up in a private vehicle and smashed head-on into my vehicle, head-on collision into my vehicle. So I don't know whether the Ghana police is of the perception that policemen, there are no policemen on drugs, or there are no policemen who are, you know, addicted to drinking. But that would be a strange perception, because there needs to be a constant reevaluation of the minds of these people that you've given guns and live ammunition to. You know, and what sort of training would make a policeman trying to give a warning shot shoot his own driver in the head? How? What sort of training are we giving these policemen? It doesn't add up. It doesn't.
It doesn't. And for me, beyond looking at the policeman, there was also a very obvious issue with this topic. And is the issue of class, right? So when you hear some of these stories, you can tell that some people are targeted, right? So if a woman walks into the bank and she's perceived to be in a middle income class, or I myself have gone to a bank where they were closed and they allowed me in, right? And nobody harassed me. They were even apologizing to me, right? So is it that we treat people differently depending on our perception of them? And even the 7 young men, right? You look at where they are, and it's like, are we perceiving them to be a certain way? And what does that say about us and our police forces, that you treat people differently based on your perception of them? That should not be the case, because we are all human beings and we all have the same human rights.
You know the funniest thing about the whole thing is that they are currently on what they call a transformational agenda, or a transformation agenda. That's where the whole thing started. The police is your friend, the police is your friend. It's very, it doesn't add up. You know, at a point where you are allegedly training your police people to be more friendly, and all these incidents are happening. I don't know what sort of training, or unless maybe during the training we exempted the policeman at the Midland Savings and Loans, Amano, because if he was indeed part of the training, then what sort of training are you giving him? What's the effect of this training?
But I'm happy that at least we've had some positive response. I think over the weekend, that Franklin Kujo even said that he might get some lawyers to sue the bank, which is something that should be done. Right? That's
something that he would not be able to do.
Oh,
because when it comes to human rights issue, under Article 33, the issue has to personally affect you. If it does not personally, so the woman can't sue.
Yeah, so they might help. Yeah, I think that's what he meant. He'll help her get lawyers to do it. But another thing I was surprised by was the fact that media houses talked to the woman before the police themselves. Right. So when an incident like this happens, the first person you talk to is you file a police report. I don't know how media houses found the woman before our policemen. And that brings me back to the topic of a lot of Ghanaians actually see the media as their first point of contact before the police. And it shouldn't be that case, right? But I'm happy that the president responded, right? And he's empathizing with us. So
and he spoke on the Asawasi issue as well.
We're talking about peace in Dagmar and in Savilogo. We have also to think about peace in our nation. Recently, events have occurred at the instigation of the police that disturbed the peace of our country. I've already spoken about what took place at the Midland Loans and Savings Bank in East Legon in Accra. The other day, too, a tragedy occurred in Asawasi. We're establishing a committee of inquiry to look into those events and make recommendations as to the way forward. I want to assure the country that the recommendations that will come from the committee will be ones that will be scrupulously implemented and enforced by the government to make sure that incidents like that never happen again.
Sad.
We need justice for the people who have gone through this. Every human being who has been a victim of police brutality deserves justice. It's not only when we see the videos that we should stand up and do something about it. I mean, this incident at the bank was the biggest story on Friday. And it's sad that we didn't have this same reaction when 7 young men were killed by the police just a couple of days before that, right? So every life matters, right? Every single person's life matters. It's important because some of us when you even study the life of Malcolm X, he started out wrong and he turned his life around. Exactly. So there's nobody to determine that because you belong here or you do this, you deserve to be treated this way. And if you don't want someone to do that to you, you shouldn't do that to the person. Exactly.
It has to end at some point. So we're strongly calling for justice for the people, for the 7 killed in Asawasi. Beyond them, we are calling for justice for every single person who has been brutalized by the police. There's several reports before the police as we speak right now, and it appears absolutely nothing is being done about it. So beyond the woman having bruises, the medical report, which has also indicated that the baby also has bruises. So it's disgusting, the sort of situation we have right now, and we are strongly calling on the committee. A committee has been set up to look into this dying of 7 people and the likes. So we have Pips and the like. So this should tell Pips something, okay? So Pips, you are there, you have been established by law, you are there, and yet a 7-member committee has been established to look into this. While you are there, it should tell you whether or not you are working. Anyway, we'll take a quick commercial break, but remember to join us
on all social media platforms with the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line.
055 0585 832. I knew it. I was just really upset. So a committee has been set up for this. I said 7-member committee. A committee has been set up for the killing of the 7 people in Asawasi.
Good. Yeah, that's good. So don't go anywhere, guys. News review is next. We'll be right back.
For regular news checks as they unfold. 2020 news, all day, all the time. Politics, sports, entertainment, business, and more. 2020 news. We bring you the world in 20 minutes.
And that's all the news in 20 minutes.
Go.
Spend 30 minutes every weekday catching up with all the trending social media conversations of the day. If you tweet it, we'll read it. We might just even Skype you. Just, no matter your situation, you can rise to the top.
Absolutely.
You really
and
can.
It's interesting that he wrote this article on the 17th of June, and on the 18th of June, yesterday, he actually scored 2 goals in the Belgium World Cup meet.
30 minutes is all it takes, so use the hashtag 30minutes on social media to catch our attention. Join the most interactive social media TV show weekdays at 5 p.m. only on City TV.
Tune in to The Point of View, Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. as Bernard Avlet takes the news further. He will bring the right guests, ask them the relevant questions, and get you the real insights you need on the big stories for the day. The Point of View with Bernard Avlet, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on City TV.
Good morning, Ghana. Good morning, world. You're in tune to the Breakfast Daily on CTTV. Stoneboy says so. Keep it locked. Don't log off. Beep.
Okay, welcome back to Breakfast Daily. Now, time for the news review segment for today, and we shall be reading your messages shortly. We have received quite a few. Remember, the hashtag is still Breakfast Daily with the WhatsApp line
0550-585-832. We'll start with the Daily Graphic. Midland suspends 5 workers and to compensate woman. That story is on page 16 of the Daily Graphic. Will recapitalize Unibank. That's coming from the shareholders, and that story is on page 16. Asumdre Park in ruins. That story is on page 3.
Okay, well, the Chronicle has it here slapped on its front page. How head of, well, we definitely do apologize for this image if it comes. How head of bullion driver was blown apart. Really, really sad. Definitely apologize for this visual. Yeah. Also, Lands Commission contract overblown by $16 million. That's a developing story that we are taking a close eye towards. Too. Nana angry over policeman's assault on woman. We did play that voice earlier. And finally, let the few bad nuts not give the police service a bad name. That's what the Chronicle has to say for us this morning.
And I agree. On to the Finder. Free SHS requires 1.3 billion Ghana cedis due to increase in enrollment. Alternative will be the double track system that will cost us 323 million cedis. Now, that story is on page 2. Asawasi incident must never happen again. That's coming from our president, and that story is on page 4. 23,000 government workers earn above 10,000 cedis a month. That's coming from the deputy finance minister. I think she said that on our show, actually. And finally, MTN Foundation commissions new 5.5 million Ghana cedis term maternity block. That's a really good one. And that story is on page 8.
Okay, now let's take a look at the new Crusading Guide. The new Crusading Guide is saying analysis methods un-Islamic. Or un-Islamic, sorry, the way it's reported. Okay, so analysis methods un-Islamic.
It does look like
it does look Islamic. Anyway, Amin Lamte, but another Islamic scholar says his interpretation of Holy Quran childish, and also Ghanaians take umbrage over police brutality at Midlands. President condemns act, and also Asawasi incident must never happen again. This is coming from the president. That's what we have on the front page of the New Crusading Guide. Okay,
on to the Independent newspaper. It says bold decisions will transform public sector. That is coming from our president. Bold decisions will transform the public service. That story is on page 2, so it's not sector but service. GES planning to reintroduce fees at basic level. Minority MP claims, and that story is on page 2 of the Independent newspaper.
Okay, the Business and Financial Times. Fresh capital eludes banks as investors gauge regulators' mood, and also exposed rice importers stealing millions from government. That's a really sad story when you look at the full story on page 3 this morning of the Business and Financial Times. Busomche Rural Bank shareholders get 40% return on share investment. And finally, government releases 366 million Ghana cedis for planting for food and jobs.
On to the Herald. Week of shame for Ghana. So, week of shame for Ghana Police Service. Kills bullion van driver. IGP chased out over Kumasi executions. COP beats up nursing mother. So she wasn't a nursing mother; it was her granddaughter.
Yeah.
Son, I don't know.
Yeah, granddaughter.
Granddaughter. And 14 officers indicted for sexual misconduct. Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but we'll look into that as well. What is going on with our security personnel? So all these stories are on pages 3, 2, 4, and 5. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Herald. Controller and Accountant General staff to be jobless soon. That's coming from, well, there's a picture here of Ken Oforiatta. Sacked boss in trouble again. That is a question for viewers or readers.
Okay. Well, the Daily Statesman is saying Mahama spins Willie message. Nana is not better than I. The scores are 1-1. Interesting. Stop the brutalities. 4 stories on page 2. President cautions police. And finally, 570 dams, 15 warehouses under construction in 3 northern regions. So we'll just introduce our guests that we have for this morning. We are joined this morning by the Honourable Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Honourable Hassan Suhuyini. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Daily once again.
Good morning.
And of course, Ebenezer Afeni-Datsi, who's our editor, our online editor. Good morning, Ebenezer.
Good morning, Jaffa.
How are you?
Okay. So we'll start off with a story on, I think, the Herald newspaper. You have that one. Super.
Yes.
So week of shame for Ghana Police Service.
Yes. So we'll talk about what happened at the bank. It says here, week of shame for Ghana Police. Never in recent history of Ghana Police Service has the institution fallen out of favor, with many Ghanaians found wanting, looking dejected, and widely condemned like the week that just passed. So they list a series of events that happened with a bullion van driver, the IGPC chased out of Kumasi, and the policeman who beat up the woman at the bank. As well as the 14 police officers who were indicted for sexual misconduct in South Sudan.
The South Sudan incident is good news, but I have a feeling that it's because it's more of a global stuff. You have the UN involved. That's why the investigation has really gone on quite well, and eventually people have paid for it. I mean, police officers were sent to go and work, and they had to go for some sexual favors and give people money, the very people they were supposed to go and protect. I mean, that's really very bad. And I think that was the height of international disgrace also for Ghana police. Yeah. But in the end, if people are falling, then it means that it's also good news. People were not shielded. And it goes to say a lot about the police force that we have. But the point is also, within every institution, you always have certain bad nuts, and if they happen and nothing happens, then it becomes a concern. But in this case, for me, it's very good for us that people have been made to pay for the crimes they committed in that place. They've been axed from the police service, obviously. So it's good. Now coming back to what has happened at the bank.
But let's just touch on that briefly. 14 out of the 46 policemen who were sacked were from Ghana. Isn't that alarming?
It is. Then, like we are saying, it goes to tell us the kind of police force we've had and the issues we have within the police service.
Is it that we send all Ghana our bad guys there, or this is?
Well,
this is a
I'm
good
sure that even within the system, perhaps per their selection process, these guys were maybe the best to represent us in terms of our image. Then here we are. You know, but there are things within people. It's possible that these guys, none of them may even have had any issue in Ghana before they went within the police service. They may not have any dent on their records within the police service. But this has to do with people's personal attitudes. Going in for sexual favors and stuff. It could be things people hide, you may never know. And you may not fault the Ghana police system so much that their people really were in this situation, because this is about people's personal attitudes. They didn't go to steal. It was not exactly criminal in nature the way it is, but then they abused their position
Yeah.
in terms of going for sexual favors. Those are not things that if you bring it down to the police, you can really blame the service for people's personal.
But shouldn't they be trained? Because I'm assuming that if you're in such a position where you deal with the most vulnerable of our society, you will undergo some sort of training that will help you understand that you should empathize with victims, right? These are the things you shouldn't do. Just basic ethics.
Well, I mean, people sometimes do what they just believe in, not just what they know is right, really. I mean, when you have a certain discretionary power, you can easily abuse things. So in that position, they had a certain discretion over protecting these people. And they had that position, they felt that, well, these people are vulnerable.
Okay.
It also comes back to personal discipline, really, because for me, what happened there is a discipline issue. Because I'm sure even the soldiers, if you go outside, and there are soldiers who go outside and they do things. I've had a few military friends who tell me, Charlie, you could, if you want to have that social life, where you, quote unquote, sex is something for you, you could go get it in a better way. But that's, if they did it that way, nobody will question them. It is still their personal life. So I think it's more of a personal discipline issue, especially as far as the nature of the offense is concerned. So it's not something so much you can blame the service so strongly for. But then again, it still questions the level of discipline within the service. But let's not forget, I say that even in the most disciplined societies, in terms of the laws and systems that work, perhaps the police force in New York, I don't want to belittle the Ghana police, but in terms of professionalism, in terms of the kind of training they get, but over there you still have issues. We have police in the U.S., New York, killing people. They shoot people unfairly. We see the videos that come out.
That's more of a race issue than a class issue.
But don't forget also, then the people also know what the law is. They are police officers. They are also guided by certain operational standards, but they go abusing it. So what I'm saying is that if you even want to bring it down to the level of Ghana, take the race issue out. I mean, a police officer can confront a citizen who is being stubborn. How you apply what the processes say is another matter. Then that's where maybe your own prejudice with regards to race may come in. But the point is, even at that level, if police are being that abusive, then you can imagine what happens in a place like Ghana, our police service. So it means that if we don't pay attention to the police, in as much as they are protecting lives and property, they also become a threat to our very existence. So that we need to pay critical attention to the police service. And we as citizens may have to demand more, because the truth is, most often, we do not trust even the police at the topmost hierarchy to calm down and investigate these things and punish their own so well for us to believe them publicly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ebenezer.
Yes.
Honorable, Ebenezer mentioned something that I want us to piggyback on. So elsewhere, we have an issue where policemen target people based on their race. In Ghana, do you think we may target people based on their class, or this is just, these stories are just outliers?
Well, let me say good morning once again to our viewers, and good morning to Ben. And also agree to some extent with your suggestion that this may be an issue of class. It may be done unconsciously. It may be done unconsciously. The way you appear will, determine the address you get from the police officer or from whoever is in charge of any service. And they may be doing so unconsciously, but you cannot delink the issue of class from what may be happening. Just like you gave your example before we came on set about how even when you were late to a bank, you were apologized to for coming late, yet you were attended to. You did not have to go through the same, despicable, condition that this lady had to go through. It's an issue of class, but it may have been done unconsciously. It is just the way we are wired sometimes. But generally speaking, I think we have a problem with the way we recruit our police service, our policemen, the way we recruit people into the service. We also have an issue of in-service training. And we have the issue of also capacity. They are simply not enough. And you see, you have introduced this in the midst of all the things that have happened, especially this week. You're talking about the Midland case, the shooting is in Asawasi, and then this report, yes, the bullion van incident. But it's important for us not to also forget that these are people who also put their lives on the line for us every day. I mean, the police officers go out or go to duty without any assurance that they will return home, but they still go out anyway every day. And that is a huge sacrifice that has to be, you know, acknowledged by us, even as we criticize them for their shortcomings. I have seen statistics that have shown that, at least in the last 4 years, about 48 police officers have been killed in line of duty. 48. 7 last year, about 4 so far this year have been killed in the line of duty. And they haven't been killed by animals from the zoo. They have been killed by citizens like you and I in some cases. So it is important for us to acknowledge the fact that they also, you know, come face to face with things that threaten their lives, even as they want to make these sacrifices to keep our, you know, nation safe. So once we acknowledge that, then we can look at what their shortcomings are. And one of those relates to what happened in Midland and what happened in Asawasi. And the interesting thing about Asawasi is that as we speak, I still think is a mystery. We do not really know what happened. And that is why I am afraid that the usual politicking will eventually not let us address the fundamental issues. Because in 2017, 2 people, 2 young men from the same Asawasi Zongo were killed by police officers. And it was in the same political atmosphere that I am sensing now that also led to the case, as we say in Ghana, becoming a foolish case. Alpha and I think Ninja, that's how they were called. They were also shot. They were said to have been terrorizing people in Asawasi, and that is why they were shot and described as armed robbers. But the citizens in the area, you know, rose up and said, no, these were decent young men in our community. Nothing came out of that. Now we have a situation where the police even initially were willing to display arms that they said these people who were killed, you know, were possessing. Now, even if they were not firing at them, isn't it important for us to find out if indeed they had arms? But you see, when issues are discussed sentimentally, sometimes we all lose our heads and do not focus on the right questions that have to be asked. Because of maybe the issue of class, like we spoke about, the people in the Zongos begin to feel that, look, we are under attack. So the right questions, even in the Zongo, will not be asked. Were these our brothers really having arms? Where did they get the arms? Are the police lying that they were having arms? Why would the police lie? And where did the police get the arms they were displaying? Could they have taken it from their own armory to make their story believable and to lie that these men have, you know, had weapons when they met them? Or they indeed had weapons? Were those weapons licensed? Who gave them those weapons? It's important. But in the midst of the sentiment,
yes, to be fair, a lady purporting to be a cousin of one of the victims did say on that it's not that the people had weapons. According to her, she knows these people, and then according to her, the police put the weapons there post killing them.
That's the question I'm asking. I am not saying that they had weapons. I'm saying let's ask the relevant questions. Did the police take the weapons from their own armory so they could frame these young men up?
You know, interesting.
That's possible.
Interesting.
Could it also be that indeed these young men had weapons? And if they had weapons, where did they get their weapons? Let's not, you see, when we think of the politics and the associations we may have with these people, whether the young men or the police or the people all of these may be working for, we will miss the essentials. Could it be that the police were lying? What incentive do they have to lie? Could it be that the young men had weapons? Indeed. Where did they get their weapons? What were they using the weapons for? Were they licensed? But if I just say I'm a Zongo boy. And indeed I am. And because some Zongo young men have been killed. And so I feel because of maybe previous cases that have happened to other innocent people from the Zongo, I'm going on the street to protest and say their lives matter. Yes, their lives matter. But the questions that we still don't have answers to will be left unattended to. And there won't be any guarantee that these things won't happen again. Because if you do not get to the root cause, if you do not get to the root cause and separate people who may be the reason why some people suspect that the Zongo is a violent place, from innocent ones who are genuinely attacked for just being Zongo people, you will not be addressing the problem. Because you see, if it is the case that there are some people in the Zongos who have weapons, who are given the weapons to commit one crime or the other, they are also not good ambassadors of the Zongo. Yeah. But if it is not true, and people are lying, the police, for example, is lying about their possession of weapons and what they are using the weapons for, then it becomes an issue for us all who claim to be Zongo people to get those right answers and deal with the police and let them know they cannot use us for their own class agenda. So, but the whole issue is being discussed sentimentally. So we are not asking the right questions. And we don't even seem to be ready to get the right answers. Because if I have not made up my mind that this is Zongo life, and so it doesn't matter, then I have made up my mind that the police can't be wrong.